We have Rishad Ahmed here with us. He has a very successful speaking career, and it's an interesting journey on how he got there. He really started off as a hopeful professional tennis player. So we will dive into that. And then went into corporate. He is an IT professional. We're going to talk a bit about how to be human in the age of AI. And then he moved into corporate training, um, became an entrepreneur, started speaking, and moved back into corporate training. I hope I got that right, Rishad. But I am going to let you say hello to our wonderful SpeakPact audience.
Antoniette, thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, the one important bit is me being the leadership coach, executive coach. That's a big part of what I did and why I went into speaking, which was an evolution from my leadership coaching. So that's mainly what I do is coach executives and teams and companies and run workshops and things like that, which then led on to onto speaking gigs as well. But
Right,
yeah,
yes.
all good. Yeah.
Definitely wanted to dive into that because how did you become an IT guy to you are a highly esteemed executive coach now? So I definitely wanted to talk about the journey of how you got from that place to where you are now. And did you set out to start speaking, or did you organically kind of go into it and think, I think I like this. I think I really enjoy training and speaking.
Yeah, it's something that's always been natural to me, my ability to explain and also to speak in front of audiences. It's something that I love. And my mom was a teacher. So teaching was something that was very much ingrained in me, and also have a mind that likes to take very complex concepts and make it simple. And that's something that I think a good teacher does. And so from that, moved into the coaching. And so, I went into the corporate world through IT and then did a lot of corporate training and then went into executive coaching, which, before I went into executive coaching, I was doing entrepreneurship and I was very successful. I had many different enterprises. One was arranging funding for very large projects, working on projects in the billions. So that was quite big, working with the big fives and,
Nice.
the consulting firms and traveling all over the world and all the rest of it. And then I went into my own business, and then I had a bit of a burnout in my 30s. And my life was not making sense, and all came to a crashing halt. And here I was, extremely successful as an entrepreneur, and in my family. At that time, I think we had 2 children. And I felt like, why was I feeling like such a failure? Why was I, not enjoying life? And there was a big question for me. And then I met a coach, and I went on a journey of my own, and always thought I knew it all and read it all and understood it all. And I met a man who really questioned everything that I thought I knew, and drove me insane, actually, questioning everything. He was right. And I had a lot of work to do, and a lot of it to do with my conditioning and my belief systems and what I thought I was. And I had to discard everything that I thought I was to create a new version of what I wanted to be, which was not based on what somebody else or what I believed should be who I should be. And so I started taking clients on this journey, and very much of a personal journey. And I realized how much that then moved into their corporate life and into their work life. Because executive coaching, you're not sitting there just talking about numbers and career. You're talking about their relationships. You're talking about their communication issues. Their personal issues make a huge part of that. So it was a natural progression to that. And then I started working. I've been very fortunate enough to have found some clients that have become very big fans of mine. And some of these clients are very connected. And just by luck, they connected me with some very well-known personalities and profiles. So, one day I plan to write a book and remove the names. But the type of people I've worked with is quite extraordinary. Famous musicians, artists, politicians, some very well-known names out there, and some billionaires, some very, very famous, wealthy people, and then CEOs of very large companies. I'm not allowed to share most of them, and most of them don't put reviews on there, so they
Right,
they
yes.
don't really post about it. So people will say, "Well, where's your proof?" I have the proof, and if you really want to set up a call with one of them, I can, but don't expect them to give you much because they're extremely private people. So
Well,
it's
you
been
have.
wonderful to do that.
I'm sorry, Rishad. I wanted to dive into that a bit because you attract those kinds of people because you have a very holistic, very outside of the box approach to leadership, and it's unique. It's obviously from your own journey, and I think that we all have been to some sort of leadership guru or leadership conferences, those kinds of things. But your approach is very holistic. It takes in the whole person. Um, and it's interesting because you come from an IT background and now you come from a very human background and you have a unique way of blending both of those. So dive into that a little bit with us. Like, well, your
Yeah,
journey, you went on you were burnt out, you went on a personal, I assume maybe a bit of a spiritual journey, and you
yeah,
actually
yeah.
brought that back to leadership.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a very important point to mention, especially for speakers out there as well. And you'll see why as I relate to it. So, for me, so I went in, and after I realized that whatever I thought I knew about life and about myself was, basically shaken up by this man that I met, and I had to basically discard all of that. So then I took that very far, and then I went into all sorts of things. I went into spirituality, and then went into Taoism. I went into Zen. I went into the yogic practices. I went into Tantra. I went into Sufism. I went into every far-reaching thing out there to get to know the nature of what joy is, what happiness is, and what life is, and sort of the deepest, most profound meaning. I'm never shallow. I'm always extremely deep, and I'm intense, and I want my audience to be so engaged, and I want them to be so in tune with what I'm doing. And so, I thought to myself, how am I going to bring this to the corporate world? Because I come from management, I come from running my own company, CEO positions, C-level positions, and worked with these people. And here I am talking about something that's entire right brain versus left brain. Because on the left brain, we're talking all logic and analysis and markets and, all that kind of stuff, which I spoke about all my life and I speak about in my sleep. But now I'm talking right brain, which is associated more with the feminine energy rather than the masculine energy. And so the feminine energy is one of seeing holistically. It's seeing, the different moving parts. It's also one of allowing rather than fighting, right? You don't insist on things. And so bringing in the teachings of Zen, and then it led to me thinking about where we are right now with the AI revolution. And the more left brain we become, the further away we go from what deeply matters to us. So a holistic thinker is not just using thought, even though we call it a holistic thinker, is incorporating left brain, right brain, the heart, the gut, the body, everyone in the environment and the planet and our future and our past and our children. And it's a wider vision. And so I talk in my presentations about the butterfly effect, which many people know about, scientific research about a butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon, creating a wind pattern somewhere in California, or it was in Florida, actually, the wind pattern. So how does what we do have such great implications? And it excites me to no end. Yet there was initial resistance to me speaking about this. And yet when I'm engaged with the audience, you first have to get past the gatekeepers, who are the people that book the speakers, who simply want to hear what everybody else is hearing because they want to take the safe approach and they don't want to rock the boat. So if someone's talking about the usual stuff, profit and loss and productivity and, just numbers, they want more of the same. And so once you get past that and you're in front of the audience, I mean, they lap it up. I just did a presentation now as a keynote speaker in Slovenia, and the people said, we didn't want you to stop. And, all these people coming up to me saying, thank you. It took so much courage to speak about what you're speaking, and it's so relevant. So many speakers and many professionals know what's going on, but they rather pay the bills. They rather meet the status quo. And I had done all of that. So I've done all of that, and I've paid my school fees, and I've realized that there's nothing more important than speaking your truth and selling your soul because you want to fit in is a real trap. And so maybe my message is not for everyone, yet you find everybody who hears it going, wow, I didn't think of it like that. And I think it's more a sense of a personal mission of, well, you could use my phrase, it's time to cut the bullshit. And I believe in the corporate world, we have a lot of that going on right now. And I think it's time to have real conversations about that.
Absolutely. You said so much gold right there, Rishad, so many layers of true gems. Number one, you stuck to your truth. You decided this works, whether they realize it works or not. I am going to speak my truth. And you did. And I really believe that had you conformed to what you thought these producers wanted so that you could get the engagements, you would not be the speaker that you are today. You would not be in demand
Right.
like you are
Yep.
today.
Exactly.
They are resistant. I mean, their jobs depend on picking the right person for their stages, right? They can lose their jobs if they pick the wrong. So they're going to stay in the safe zone, sometimes to their own detriment, stick in that status
Yes.
quo. But you
Yes.
spoke your truth and did it boldly. And that is what makes you the speaker that you are. And that is why high profile people come to you, because you're honest, you're authentic, and you stayed true to yourself. So can you speak to that a little bit? Maybe there's a speaker out there who in the health world or in the sales world, right? They have a completely different way, a completely different approach that may not even be known yet, just like yours. How do you have that courage to own your space, stand your ground, because you know you've got something for people on the other side?
Yeah, so I'll speak more about that while you see what you can do.
Sounds
So
good.
yes, that's I think a very important point that we need to highlight, and for speakers as well. I think you need to test out what you want to say to the world and whether you think this thing actually has practical implementation and it actually can deliver the results that people want. And the way you do that is with some test groups, and you do a small test and you run it, you run workshops, and you run courses. And if there's interest in what you're saying, for instance, I launched a newsletter, and my focus was, the newsletter was actually called Enlightened Leadership, which is, taking it into another direction altogether, because enlightenment has this whole buzzword around it, which is like, some kind of spiritual guru or something like that. Yet I wanted to test what the market thought about enlightened leadership. And to my surprise, I'm now, well, I wasn't surprised because I believed in what I had to say, but I was doubting myself. And I have now over 23,000 subscribers to my newsletter, which is like, wow, okay. So people like this. And I'm talking about all sorts of things that don't belong in the corporate world, like authenticity, like let's cut out the crap. And then I go into spirituality, and I'm talking about quantum physics, and I'm talking about wisdom. I believe we're in the age now where wisdom is really lacking. We have an abundance of information, but we've discarded everything that makes us realize the continuity of where we came from and where we're going to. We believe that life started when we were born and life's going to end when we die. We fail to see the future. And I think very much of the Eastern wisdom, you're planting a tree now, knowing that you won't be here to see the result and the fruits of that tree. An interesting exercise that the Turkish people did, and they planted all these crops, including almond trees and all these different types of trees, knowing that future generations will benefit from this. And their whole focus was on regeneration of the bee population, which is really interesting. And so they planted all these trees, which then, when these people that planted them had passed away, the new generation came about. The bee population started thriving, and that entire community became so wealthy and successful. In return, they started uplifting other communities. So I won't go much into that, but really, we need to bring that into the corporate world. And another thing that I speak about, that I'm a man talking about what normally is more appealing to what women talk about. And of course, most of my audience and many of my clients are females, because they resonate with the message, because it's intrinsically what they are. They don't need to learn this skill. And I believe we all, without sounding corny and misunderstood, that we need to think like women, but not the women in the Western sense. I'm talking about the feminine sense, which is understanding everything in its entirety, implications, allowing, and the Tantra speaks a lot about this, and so that female energy is very important as well, the feminine energy as well. So and there's a lot of wisdom that is passed through that. And one of the qualities of the feminine energy, it doesn't stay to a position, it doesn't lead with ego. It's open. It's always wanting to learn. It's always there to say, I don't know, what can I learn? And I bring to my corporate clients this concept from the Japanese called mushin. And mushin means beginner's mind. So can we approach life as a beginner? As the famous D.T. Suzuki said, in the mind of the expert, there are very few possibilities. In the mind of the beginner, there are endless possibilities. So you can see how, by you having the non-expert approach, you can bring so much value. So in summary, you've got to have the courage to if you depend on your salary and you earning a living out of becoming a good speaker, I honestly don't believe that you will reach that level. It's the moment where I said, I will do what I believe the world needs, and I will do it in a way that is beneficial to me. But the moment I say, I need this gig, like right now, if you talk about AI, you can get booked like every week. There's guys that are flying all over the world, and all they're talking about is AI. They're telling you because everyone wants to know what's going to happen in the age of AI. The problem is it's all guesstimation. Nobody knows because the future hasn't arrived. And so of course, I don't. So people say, hey, do you want to come talk about AI? I can talk about AI. I researched it enormously. I know a lot about large language models and all the rest of it because I come from a tech background. But I'm not selling myself short. So I was given the opportunity to speak about people in the age of AI. So I created a whole workshop and a keynote around. So in the keynote, I said, my focus in the age of AI is people. Because everybody's focused on the technology, but not realizing that companies need people in order for AI and in order for the future to evolve. And I think people are losing touch with their humanity in many ways and becoming entirely, they're going to make themselves obsolete by becoming entirely information driven and entirely left brain rational mind thinking and disconnecting from everything that they are. So yeah, that's in summary.
Oh my goodness, there's so much there. I generally will draw out quotes from these interviews. I wrote down 5 just in that time that you were speaking, because there are real truths there, real importance. And if we can grasp on to some of these concepts, we'll be so much more impactful in our lives, and I believe so much more fulfilled. Can you touch on that whole concept? Because there's a lot of competition in the speaking world. There's a lot of hungry speakers. And you said something almost in passing that was so profound, and it had to do with the moment you tell yourself you need a speaking engagement, it works to your detriment versus to your benefit. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very good question. So when I went into the coaching arena and I wanted to be a really good coach, I realized that me trying to be a good coach is what's going to make me very ineffective as a coach. And so I realized if I'm trying to coach someone and trying to make them reach a new level and trying to overcome their blocks, I need to be honest with myself and I need to be honest with them. And part of the risk that I take is they'll say, he's a bad coach. He said to me that I'm like this. Now, because I'm trying to be a good boy and a good coach and I want more business, I'm not going to actually tell you what you need to hear. And so you get a lot of therapists and I'm not judging anyone, but they're going to therapy for 20 years and you're wondering why. So I have, in my coaching, you do 8 sessions with me and then I chuck you out, right? Because I'm not trying to keep you on the books. And of course, I've got clients that stay with me for years, but it's checking in. If you haven't evolved past a certain point, I'm chucking you out because I'm not dependent. And I made sure from day one on that retainer, because it's very easy for me to say, okay, well, let's discuss this next week, right? And all you're doing is you're playing for time and then you're getting billable hours. And I don't do that. And so when the corporates, I was offered from a very large bank to coach 6,500 of their top executives. And I said, I will not do it because I can't roll out this thing. It's not and then they said, we want 200 coaches that you can bring on board and train them. And I said, I don't do mass market. This is not McDonald's here. This is customized. And what we do here is not about just getting through particular surveys. And you get paid a lot of money to run through assessments and surveys. Taking that into coaching, when I wanted to be a good speaker, it means that I'm trying to be the one on show, that people must look at me. And I find a lot of speakers, and it's not all of the speakers, they have this complex of needing to be noticed and needing for the attention. And so they go into speaking so that everybody can say, oh, wow, he's so good, and he's such a good speaker, or she's so great. And then you feed off that, which is a terrible thing, right? And because then you get that one particular gig and everybody boos you off the stage, and it's almost like comedy in that way, right? Because as a comedian, I love comedians. I think they're extremely courageous, and I think there's a lot to learn from comedians as well. So then the moment I said, okay, well, it's not about me. I want them to notice themselves. And so recently I was invited to a podium with all the best international speakers, and they said, you got 5 minutes to pitch. And my 5 minutes was very little about me because, it's all in my profile anyway. And I'm not great at saying this is why I'm so great. I'm not good at that. And I was just complimenting all the rest of the speakers about how awesome they are. I mean, I said to them, I feel so small next to you. I mean, I've not lived, out of a car boot, or I've not done this, or I've not done that. And they're all these great, climbers of Mount Everest and multiple published authors. And I said, I'm just a guy who connects with my audience. And I think that's the key thing that I do, is that I'm here to see what I can bring out in you as the audience. So you have to fall in love with your audience. You have to be, it's not about you impressing them, and it's not about you being judged by them. They are your fellow friends and brothers and sisters, and you're there to connect with them deeply and see if there's some wisdom that you may share, or something they may share with you as well. And so then when you make the focus about the people and the essential message you want to get across, and forget about how you look and the shoes that you wear and then hours of training on how to, basically it's manipulation, how to be an effective speaker, speak like that and speak like that. Yeah, I get that. There's some things you need to know and how to be. But sometimes I get on the stage and I say, I'm so nervous today. And then I start off with, I had a failed tennis career. And then people are just shocked. Now, I'm not putting on an act, and I'm not doing the whole, feel sorry for me, and then I'm going to show you why, because of my tough circumstances, I became so successful, and why you can do the same. I don't play that card. I just don't do that. And a lot of speakers do that, and no judging to them either. I'm really trying to tell them, look, wherever you are, you need to look deeply into yourself and forget about me. And I think then people really, you encompass the audience because you disappear. That's what my whole book that I wrote was, my whole journey. And the book is called Mu, which in Japanese means nothingness. And so people ask me, what's my book about? And I say nothing. And I always get this strange look about that too. But it's really, if you can become, and that's the part of Zen, right? Which is through meditation, you're just disconnecting from everything that you want to be and what you think the world should be and all the rest of it. And you just be present. And you find that the audience then can be themselves, instead of you insisting that, hey, look at me and listen to how clever I am and what I got to teach you. To listen, this is how great you are. And I'm privileged to be in your company.
Wow. Love your audience more than you love yourself, right? That came through just as you're speaking to our audience. I felt like you were speaking to me, and that you actually cared that I get these concepts because you know what it can do for my life. And this is another one of those quotes, you have to fall in love with your audience. That's really hard to do. You're up there nervous. The inclination is to think of your own nerves, right? And instead you just let it out, and you're again walking in your truth. I absolutely believe that is an art, and it's a very essential one if you're really going to make it as a speaker. Those in the audience, once they truly believe that you care about them, then they're all ears, right? Have you ever sat at a dinner table in a conversation, community kind of conversation, and the person who's just so obviously not hearing what's going on at the table because they have their own agenda in the background of what they want to say and what they feel like everybody needs to hear. You just can't wait till they be quiet so you can have the real conversations. I feel like in some
Right.
ways that's you.
Yeah. So yeah, on that point, it's a really important point. So for me, when people feel nervous in front of the audience, is because the speaker believes that they are there to put on some type of act, or to persuade them, or to make them believe, or for them to like you, or for them not to judge you, or for them to get the message. But if you come on there saying, I'm going to be me on stage, and these are my fellow brothers and sisters, and I'm connecting with them. And if they don't like me, I didn't come here to get liked. If you want like, you go get a strawberry ice cream. I came here to speak, and if I can appeal to someone in the audience and they like it, that's great. And if they boo me off stage, it's nothing personal, because it's never happened to me, of course. But if they booed me off stage, and I get these comedians, and I see their robustness. I mean, if you can handle being booed off stage, then you can speak your truth. I think the fear of and that's the fear of judgment, right? Which we have. I talk about the different fears, and at the top of the pyramid is the fear of rejection, because we feel that is how we're programmed in our DNA. That if a society rejects us, then we're an outcast. And so if you're an outcast, you're going to be eaten by the lions. So your greatest fear is to be the fear of rejection. But if you get over that and you say, if I'm alone and the lions eat me, so I'll be dead, or maybe the lions won't eat me, you can actually become your true self. And I think having a couple of flops, because everybody, you see, and most audiences are very compromising and they're very accommodating. So no one's really going to tell you how you did. Right. And so if you get everybody coming to say, you know what, that was terrible, I would say that would be the most useful feedback. And then I would engage with that person and say, tell me why, so I can improve, instead of saying, I'm offended and I'm hurt. How could you speak to me like that? And because everybody's so afraid of being offended, nobody actually speaks their mind. So I go up to people and they say, oh, it was the best presentation. I say, could you tell me why? Oh, because you said this and this message really resonated with me. I said, yeah, but it doesn't mean it was the best presentation. It's just that something in what I said appealed to you. So I'm not going to take it like it was the best presentation. I'm not telling them this, but I'm saying, okay, well, what do I need to grow with, and how do I connect with more people as well? So I don't know, that may help some people as well.
Oh my goodness, right. They say they say that speaking is right up there with death for a lot of people, right? That the fear of speaking. I love that you alluded to your fear pyramid. I think if we can each grasp that, especially as speakers, as those who are out there wanting to make a greater impact, how much more people we can reach in our spaces if we really understood that fear is really a self-focused emotion. Once we flip that and start focusing more on the audience, even if it's just that one person in the audience who really needs to hear what we have to say so that they can excel in their own lives, personally or professionally, how can you be afraid when you're thinking about the other person?
Yeah, yeah, that's really important. And the fear of judgment is simply a lack of you not having the robustness to question yourself. Because, I mean, why should you be accepted by everyone? There are going to be people that are not going to like what you said, what you say, and that's perfectly fine. Right, and that's perfectly acceptable as well. So, yeah, the fear of, in fact, what I do with clients and people that I coach on, who want to speak and be public figures, is going into their fears. And I'm like, okay, well, what could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Oh, they could boo me off. Okay, let's go into that. And so the Zen approach is to feel into your fear. And the Western approach is ignore it and throw a lot of motivational quotes over it. And then you get in front of the audience and you're frozen solid, right? And then, but if you go into the fear and allow it to come up, and you say, what's that bringing up in me? It's very powerful. And in other words, you get to know your fear. You become familiar with it. And we have this wonderful saying in the coaching, which is what you resist will persist.
Mm-hmm.
What you befriend, you will transcend.
Mm-hmm.
So once you befriend this fear and say, okay, well, let's see what it's trying to help me to do. And then, you have no problem with it anymore. It becomes something you work with, because I think fear is a very powerful motivator. And I'm always a bit anxious and always a bit, tense before I get onto stage. And I love that feeling because it keeps me in my top game. Because sometimes I just came off a long flight or whatever, and I'm not feeling it so good. And then I get this rush, and that's like, okay, you got to be on your A game. Bring as much of yourself here. So yeah, that's I think using your fear and welcoming it is very useful.
I even heard, I've had the privilege of working pretty closely with Tony Robbins' producers, and he's very open about this, but he still gets those nerves in before he gets on stage, and he's got a little bit of a ritual that he does before hopping on stage so he can get back that energy, really get out there and be the fullness that he can be. Do you as well have some sort of ritual that you do before you step onto that stage?
Yeah, interesting question. I actually was seeing what Tony Robbins does, and I thought it was very useful. One of the things he does, he takes a cold plunge, and the other one, he has a trampoline and he starts jumping. And of course, he's a motivational speaker, and so his energy has to be so high so that the audience can really absorb that energy, and he's giving all of himself, and he's inspiring them. And I'm not really bringing that. I'm not motivating them, but as a result of me being there, people get motivated. So my ritual is I say a little prayer, and I say that whatever the universe is meant to speak through me, let it come through me, and let me disappear. And then I get on stage. So that's my,
wow.
Nobody asked me that question. So it's quite personal, but I make sure that I'm not bringing myself, because the moment I want myself to be known is when I don't bring what needs to come through me. So really, you could call it channeling as well. I mean, I do my preparations, I do my PowerPoints and all the rest of it, but then I get up there and that's just a guide. I mean, I do not read off PowerPoints or pre-plan my speeches.
The moment I want myself to be known is the moment that you know that you're not going to bring your fullest. Wow, that is profound, Rishad. That reframing, tell me how that works with that needy feeling as well. We alluded to it just a few moments ago, but the truth is, right, the fact is you need the engagements to make the income if you're a speaker. How do you reframe your need to that energy that will actually get you those engagements?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's not easy. It's not easy. So many times, I mean, for me, it's my manifesting routine that I do, and I picture myself already, the phone ringing and the emails coming in, and people like you calling me and asking me to be interviewed, and those things do come. But then there's sometimes we're sitting there going, well, I better do something. And then sometimes I get tempted to say, okay, well, let me talk about what everybody else is talking about so that I can get the gigs. And I don't, many or most of the time, I don't actually get the gigs, right? So, but there's no harm in a bit of a compromise. So I don't really reframe that. I mean, I suppose on the one level, it is a reframe, but on the other level, it's like, yeah, you just keep going, and you just make sure you be as authentic as possible. And I mean, my bills add up like you can't believe. And some months are very slow, and some months pay off for the other months. And of course, I think if you can somehow, as a speaker, cover your bases so that you're not dependent on speaking gigs, you can do really well. Because the other thing is, I can get booked out very easily if I'm talking about something that, like AI, for instance, that everybody's getting booked out for. And then I'm just being flung, from one city to the other, and people don't realize the toll that it takes on you. So I get to choose my gigs. Well, I don't get to, I choose to choose my gigs that I speak at. And so sometimes I'll speak at a smaller event for less money and then do another event in the same area, instead of me saying, okay, right, you're in Boston one day and then you're in Siberia the next day, and then you're, flying to London the next day, and you're getting fully booked up and you're getting paid money. But a lot of people don't realize, and because I come from the corporate training, I left that because after 2 years, I was doing 16 hours a week. I kid you not. I was doing Dubai to London twice a week. And I was getting burnt out, and I said, I can't carry on like this, So yeah, there are that other aspect as well. So not so much reframing, but I would say get your base covered and do this as a passion. And if it becomes a full-time thing, great. But then even when it becomes a full-time thing, do you really want every single gig that you're getting booked on? I mean, my goal is to run my own workshops and my own seminars instead of me, being on other platforms, is to run my own events. And that's something, I did that in London and I do that quite often, but I want to take a really large auditorium and have a 2-day intensive, you walk in as the version that you were and you come out an entirely different person. And because I've been through it, if I've got 48 hours, well, not 48 hours, but that 2 days with a person, I know we can make really effective change. So Maria, one of my coaches, and I are putting together a workshop like that, and just like full immersion, and that excites me. So yeah.
Sign me up. I want to be there. I'm going to be your. I'm already a fan, so I'll
wonderful.
stay tuned and hear when those
Wonderful.
happen. You need to do those, Rishad. That would be that would be.
I'd love to. Yeah. Thank you.
So, there's just so much goodness that sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know which direction to go. I want to dive more into the more intangible, and my mind is leading me to the tangible. So I'm going to step one more step into the more less tangible, less obvious for most of us. And then I do want to get back onto the more tactical, I guess is the word. So you alluded to, when you're ready for new engagements, you actually envision the phone ringing, right? You envision that outcome that you would like to see happen. And I assume, let's say there's kind of a far-reaching engagement that you would maybe like to speak at. One of mine is JJ Virgin stages. I think it would be amazing, right? For me, it's not easy to get on those stages, and it's not inexpensive either. So you actually, can you walk us through how you, instead of like, I really wish, or golly, I would really like to have that thing, right? You're actually seeing it happen. How do you get yourself there?
Well, firstly, you have to prime your heart. So the whole thing is, I believe that the heart is your tool of manifesting, and the heart is connected to all of time and space at the same time. So first, you get yourself into a deep state of wholeness and oneness and feeling no separation with anything, because the mind creates separation. So I'm one with all. And then I make sure I get into a deeper state. You can use some binaural sounds or meditation or breathing. I do a heart practice meditation, which I teach my clients and my coaches. And then put my hands over my heart, close my eyes, and I use my third eye, which is, again, from my Indian teaching background. So your third eye is the screen, and your heart is your desire. So this is the magnetic field that Joe Dispenza talks about. And your third eye is your visual movie screen. So then I close my eyes and I'm feeling the emotion, because like Neville Goddard, who was the founding father, you could say, of, and he's the teacher of Napoleon Hill, and, Think and Grow Rich, that famous book that is a bestseller. And he said, the secret is in the feeling. The secret is in the feeling. So that was the title of his book. So you need to get into the feeling. So you're in the feeling deeply, and then you're using your third eye, visualizing almost at the back of your eyes what that would feel like. So for me, it's feeling me being in front of the audience and deeply connecting, and I'm feeling how the audience are feeling so connected, heart to heart, and we are together creating a new reality. And you're feeling these emotions, you're feeling deeply satisfied, fulfilled, and you're feeling as if though they're thanking you for what they brought to you. And I mean, sometimes I come off stage and I'm like playing out the script that I said, and someone would come up to us, Rishad, and I'm like, Yes, and they'll say that thing, and I went, I said that a couple of weeks ago, in my manifesting, and they'd say the exact same words, right? So, so yeah, it happens. It doesn't. It's not a foolproof kind of thing, and yeah, but I believe the reason why I do the manifesting is because it's a good way to live. But a lot of people think that is this ideal science, and then they get despondent about it. Sometimes you're not meant to be a good speaker. Sometimes you're not meant to be a multi-billionaire. Sometimes you're not. But we've all bought into somebody else's dream, and we're like, I want to be that. I want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be that. And nobody knows the other side of what Tony Robbins have to put up with. There's a lot of crap of being that famous, and I know all the lawsuits and all the rest of the stuff. Although I was really impressed with his approach to the whole pandemic. I was really, I said, this guy's the real deal. I was like, wow, because on the one hand, he's a great speaker and is extremely. I don't know if you've heard this particular talk that he gave. It's not very well known, but it's about the difference between how men and women think. Have you heard about it? It's
I don't think I
very
have.
difficult to find. I'll send you the name of it, but he talks about the meadow. I think the title is called The Meadow, and it's one of his most brilliant things about how women see things and how men describe things. So yeah, that's how I do manifesting in brief.
Well, your approach is fascinating to me, very intriguing, and I'm sure. I mean, it's very complex, but you make it simple, which is one of your superpowers. It really truly is,
Right.
Rishad, one of your gifts. So, for us to really dive into that with you, we will buy your book. We will go to that workshop once you get that going for us. Because, wow, what a world if you could just really capture that. So much of us just live in this world of fear and self judgment, right?
That's a big
And
thing.
that whole idea of feeling into the fear rather than resisting it, which we are conditioned to do. So, what a world! I love it. Thank you for bringing that to us. In the context of ho- especially in the context of what kind of effect that has on us truly connecting with others and maybe even with ourselves, with our own truth. So thank you for bringing that to the table.
You're welcome.
I would like to dive into, so you started off corporate IT, right? And then you went into corporate training. I'm assuming they saw some gifts in you and said, "Hey, can you lead this or that?" You did it, found that, "Hey, I think I might be okay at this," and enjoyed it. Got burnt out because they were utilizing you so much, right? Or you were utilizing yourself so much. Pulled back, went on an entrepreneurial journey, and then I believe, if I'm getting the order right, a personal journey, and then began speaking. And now you're kind of coming full circle and you're going back to corporate training. So tell me a little bit about that journey. What's going to make it different this time for you?
Yeah, that's true. So for me, and when my corporate training actually began was in Austin, Texas. So I spent almost a year, and so this company hired me while I was in Australia and said, "Hey, we're flying you to Austin." I was like, "Where's Austin? I've never been to Austin, right?" But I was in California before that, so I knew something of the U.S. And yeah, they just put me on these courses and said, "You just digest everything." So I had to digest. I think I was reading 10,000 pages a week, and I had to just digest all of that. And then they flew me all over the world presenting this material that was very technical to large audiences, to workshops and events. And then, of course, then I went into coaching, and then I realized that it's something that I used to do, which is speaking and training, and so it's a natural progression. And so if I'm speaking to an audience of 10 or an audience of 100 or an audience of thousands, it really doesn't make still much of a difference because I'm still. But in answer to your question, the evolution of me is that before it was me teaching them, where now is me sort of being the conduit for them to transform. So I'm more interested in transformation by my presence and by the divine presence, because I think a lot is, you can relieve such a burden on you if you can allow this belief or this knowing that the universe or God or higher power or nature is doing something through you. And once you recognize that, that something is happening through you, you're no longer fighting to be this and to be that. You're saying, well, if I'm meant to be that, then I will be. And so you become this channel and this vehicle for which, the universe is trying to do its work. And I do believe it on one level, my job or my part of my role is to enlighten people and to let them awaken to their spirit, and also to show them the joy of living outside of conditioning and other people's opinions and what the world tells you should be and how you should be. And so that becomes a very natural flow. So then, of course, teaching does come into that, and training does come into that. Now, a lot of companies have said, look, can you come to our teams? And I'm talking about stuff that I used to talk about. So talking about communication, and talking about different communication models, and talking about leadership strategies. And I've learned all of those types of things. So I'm bringing back all my theoretical knowledge, but with an entirely new mindset. And it becomes very refreshing and very enlightening. So although you're listening to the same material, you're getting it from a different angle. And I think that's also something that my wisdom through the years of, me going through so many challenges, not through me having, parties and, getting pats on the back every day, is coming through that, realizing, hey, that didn't work. Why are we pushing the same thing about that's how, employee, like one of the companies, they've got a 10,500 page document on a workplace, basically employee handbook. So how you should behave at work. And I said, guys, I mean, who are we kidding here? And then, of course, you get fired because you didn't meet 999,000 of the document or something silly on 900. And you're wondering, going, guys, we're not being honest here. And then you go out to the public going, we love people and we're people-centric company. We focus. I'm like, you're lying. Stop lying, because people can see that. If you're a people-centric company, why do you have all these processes and procedures and make it extremely complex and impossible for you to know whether you're valued or not? So let's be honest. So I chucked a lot of it out and said, guys, even though you're paying me to talk about that, I'm not talking about that. I can tell you about something related to that, but I'm not doing that, because it doesn't work, and it's time that we cut the bullshit.
And that could only come from a genuine place of, it's no longer about Rishad, it's about the transformation in the people.
Right.
Brilliant.
Right.
Love that. And that's why these connected people were like, wow, there's something real here. There's something fresh here. There's something that we can learn from here. Make sure you bring him on your stage, right? And you had alluded to that when we very first began, that it just really can take one connected person to skyrocket your career, and you never know where they're going to be, but they're going to spot the authenticity and the realness in you, and that's what's really going to propel you. So brilliant. Golly, I want to keep going. My producer is like, we're already above the amount of time that's normal, because I could spend hours, Rishad. There's true value in what you're saying. So because of that, I know that there's a good number of people in our audience that is going to want to know how to follow you, how to find you, where to hear you speak, how to get your book. So tell us a little bit about the best places to find you.
Yeah, the best place is my website, which is Rishad Ahmed, and you probably can put a link somewhere there, rishadahmed.com. And that would be the best. Everything's there. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, if you just type into Google Rishad Ahmed, that normally there are other Rishad Ahmeds out there. But LinkedIn, I post mostly on LinkedIn, and I'm on there. And then, I mean, if I'm not speaking at a particular venue, then get your people to get in touch with my people, and I'd love to be speaking at your venue. And I think, and I'd love people to partner with me. As you see, a lot of speakers also are very selfish because the market's not big, right? And so what ends up happening is a lot of speakers are like, oh, that's my gig. And I'm saying my approach is very different. That if you align with my message and my approach, then let's go out and get to those wider audiences and get on the platform talking about these authentic messages. And I'm more than happy to partner with and help other people grow. And if you need some input, by any means, I'm always available, because I know when I started out in speaking, contacting some of the speakers, then they're like, most of them ignore you, right? Because, they did it the hard way and you need to do it the hard way. And I'm like, guys, we need to change that approach. And I truly believe that the generosity approach and especially if you're just a conduit, you can't go own this thing, because one day that's going to bite you in the ass, right? So I don't own it like this is my platform. These are my clients. I don't do that. So collaboration for sure.
Collaboration. Oh my goodness, that's so good. Okay. So for those who are binge listening, because I'm a podcast binge listener for sure. It's Rishad, Rishad Ahmed, AHMED.com, and definitely look him up on LinkedIn. You are, there's a reason why you have 80,000 plus followers on LinkedIn alone, between those who are connected with you and those who are following you on that platform. There's a reason. You are striking a chord within us. So because of that, Ahmed, I'm going to ask you this question, pop out and pop in as you're answering. What is one, there's so much here. What if the first step, what's the one thing that an emerging speaker can do to really increase their impact and increase their joy in what they're doing? So this show is called Speak Pact for a reason. I believe it has to start with impact. So you and I, and hopefully this audience, we are on a pact, right, to really bring that greatest work into the world that we can. What is a challenge that you can leave with our audience where they can make a big leap, a step in that direction?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I think that comes from personal wisdom. You could say my personal approach is that if you can, on a regular basis, and if you commit to doing it to yourself, that you commit and you actually deliver on this, is do a post every day on whichever social media platform you want, highlighting the thing that you want to talk about. And so if I'm talking about wisdom, I'll spend, and some days I don't get that great feedback on the algorithm, because the algorithm just chooses the usual stuff that goes viral. And what goes viral is purely emotionally driven. It's not driven by what's really useful out there. So I would say a pact you could make with yourself, because ultimately, really, you need that one person or that one group, or whatever it is, for them to say, I like what this person is doing. And so one thing that really helped me was to do weekly free calls. So during COVID, I decided, look, people are not going to even have money to pay, and I can't travel anymore. So I'm going to be stuck here at home. So I went online and said, every Saturday, free coaching for everyone. Come on board. And of course, people thought it was a gimmick, right? And then people would come up to me say, well, what do you charge for coaching? And I say, you don't understand. You don't have to pay for coaching. It's free. And they're like, this guy's nuts. There's something wrong with this guy, right? So, well, it turned out that that's where so many of my clients came through. They were like, no, we do want to pay. And I'm like, don't pay. It's free. And they're like, no, but we want to pay. I'm like, all right, if you insist, right? So I would say, give back. Like, just change the whole approach around to, instead of me trying to make it out there, what can you give to people, and what you can transmit through you? And that would be my challenge to you. What can be transmitted through you for a better place, for a better world, and for doing things better? So if you're a professional, what you're transmitting through you and how you can improve, or some unique message you're bringing through the world that's happening through you, bring that out there. But the regular practice will make sure you get rid of your fear of judgment and your fear of what people would say. And one final thing I would say, grab the camera and record, and you will be bad at it. Guaranteed. I remember when I did my first recording, and I said to my wife, I did about 30 takes, and I said to my wife, I really like it. What do you think? And she goes, it's terrible. And you know what? I said, I'm posting it. And I posted it, and I got a couple of nice people who said, it's not bad, right? And then you just, over time, you get better at it. So
Oh my gosh, that's okay, brilliant. So essentially, be generous for the sake of being generous, not for the sake of gaining something.
yes.
And then you will gain it, but people see right through that if that is truly your goal. You're out there,
Right.
you really genuinely wanting to help people in a tumultuous time, right? That was very destabilizing for all of us, and you knew you could help. So you were
Right.
generous, and that came back to you, even though that just wasn't even in your framework at that time. beautiful way to close this show. And I am serious when I say I could spend hours with you. I feel like we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. So,
It is.
dear SpeakPact audience, definitely reach out to Rishad. Follow him on LinkedIn, check out his website, look up his book. You will be a transformed, better speaker for it. So thank you. This has been thrilling. Thank you for the time that you've spent with us today, Rishad.
You're very
So
welcome, and I
appreciate
think
it.
I think you had a lot to do with how the conversation flowed. Your energy, your presence. You're an excellent interviewer because you didn't bring you exactly what I said. What makes a really good speaker? There wasn't you showing off what I am, and you came through so beautifully. And I think your questions were excellent, and your engagement despite all the issues. And also, this was the second time we're trying to arrange this because of the storms that you had. So this was a long time coming, and thank you. You've been incredible as well, as a wonderful host as well. So thank you very much, Antoinette.
I'm taking that right here.
Antoniette,
Antoniette, you've got
thank
it,
you.
but I'm taking that right here, Rashad. Thank you. And thank you, audience, for staying with us today. We so appreciate you as well. Ciao, ciao for now.